Ever wondered what forges a leader capable of steering a nation through its darkest hour? Today, we're diving into the extraordinary life of Winston Churchill, a man whose name is synonymous with resilience, wit, and wartime leadership. From a rebellious schoolboy to the prime minister who defied Hitler, his story is one of ambition, setbacks, and unwavering determination. So, grab a cup of tea, and let's explore the life of one of modern history's most iconic figures. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30, 1874, into the heart of the British aristocracy. His father was Lord Randolph Churchill, a prominent Tory politician, and his mother was the American heiress, Jenny Jerome. Born at the magnificent Blenheim Palace, young Winston seemed destined for greatness, but his early years were far from smooth. He was a spirited and often rebellious child, with a less than stellar academic record. His relationship with his parents, particularly his father, was distant, and he often felt a deep need to prove his worth. Despite his struggles in the classroom, Churchill was sent to Harrow School, one of Britain's most prestigious institutions. He didn't excel in traditional subjects but showed a remarkable talent for English and history. His parents decided a military career would be a better fit than a university education. So, after 3 attempts, he finally passed the entrance exam for the Royal Military College at Sandhurst. Here, he thrived. The structure and discipline of military life suited him, and he graduated near the top of his class in 1894, ready for action. His early military career was anything but dull. Eager for adventure and to make a name for himself, Churchill sought out conflict zones. He served as a young cavalry officer and doubled as a war correspondent, sending back vivid dispatches from the front lines in Cuba, India's northwest frontier, and the Sudan. These experiences weren't just about adventure, they were about building his reputation. His writings were published in newspapers, and he authored several books about his campaigns, gaining public recognition and a taste for the limelight. Perhaps his most famous early adventure was during the Second Boer War in South Africa. In 1899, while reporting for the Morning Post, the armored train he was on was ambushed. Churchill was captured and held as a prisoner of war, but being a prisoner didn't suit his temperament. In a daring escape, he scaled a wall and navigated 300 miles of enemy territory to freedom in Portuguese East Africa. His escape made him a national hero back in Britain, providing the perfect springboard for the next chapter of his life, politics. Riding the wave of his newfound fame, Churchill ran for Parliament in 1900 and won a seat as a Conservative member for Oldham. He was just 25 years old. However, his political journey was never straightforward. In 1904, in a bold and controversial move, he crossed the floor of the House of Commons, leaving the Conservatives to join the rival Liberal Party over his support for free trade. This move was risky, but it paid off. Under the Liberals, his career soared. He quickly climbed the political ladder, holding a series of high-profile cabinet positions. As president of the Board of Trade, he championed social reforms, helping to establish minimum wages and labor exchanges. Then, as Home Secretary, he was responsible for domestic law and order, a role that brought him both praise and criticism. But it was his appointment as First Lord of the Admiralty in 1911 that truly showcased his strategic vision. With the storm clouds of World War I gathering over Europe, Churchill took on the monumental task of modernizing the Royal Navy. He pushed for the transition from coal-powered to oil-powered ships, a move that dramatically increased their speed and efficiency. He championed the development of naval aviation and supported the creation of the tank, which he famously called a landship. He ensured the British fleet was ready for war. When the conflict erupted in 1914, the navy he had built was prepared to face the German threat. However, World War I would also bring Churchill his greatest political disaster, the Gallipoli Campaign of 1915. The plan, which he championed, was to seize the Dardanelles Strait from the Ottoman Empire, open a sea route to Russia, and break the stalemate on the Western Front. The campaign was a catastrophic failure, resulting in immense casualties for the Allied forces. Churchill was held responsible and forced to resign from his post as First Lord of the Admiralty. It was a devastating blow to his career and reputation. Humiliated, but not defeated, Churchill did something remarkable. He resigned from the government, rejoined the army, and served as a battalion commander on the Western Front in France. He experienced the mud, fear, and camaraderie of trench warfare firsthand. This period in the political wilderness was a humbling one, but it gave him a profound understanding of the realities of war, a perspective that would prove invaluable later in his life. After about 6 months, he was recalled to government, but the shadow of Gallipoli followed him for years. The interwar years were a mixed bag for Churchill. He returned to the Conservative Party in the mid-1920s and served as Chancellor of the Exchequer, where he made the controversial decision to return Britain to the gold standard, a move that many economists later argued harmed the British economy. By the 1930s, he found himself on the political fringes once again. His staunch opposition to Indian independence and his old-fashioned views seemed out of step with the times. But there was one issue on which he was tragically prescient: the rising threat of Nazi Germany. While many in Britain and Europe were pursuing a policy of appeasement, hoping to avoid another war by making concessions to Adolf Hitler, Churchill was a lone voice crying out in warning. From the backbenches of Parliament, he delivered powerful, detailed speeches about the dangers of German rearmament and Hitler's aggressive ambitions. He was dismissed by many as a warmonger, a relic of a bygone era. But as Hitler's forces marched across Europe, it became terrifyingly clear that Churchill had been right all along. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, Britain declared war. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, the architect of appeasement, initially brought Churchill back into the government as First Lord of the Admiralty, the very post he had held 25 years earlier. A famous signal went out to the fleet, "Winston is back." But as Germany's blitzkrieg swept through Western Europe in the spring of 1940, Chamberlain's leadership crumbled. On May 10, 1940, the same day Germany invaded France and the Low Countries, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister. He was 65 years old. He took power at Britain's darkest moment. France was on the verge of collapse, the British army was trapped at Dunkirk, and an invasion of Britain itself seemed imminent. In his first speech to the House of Commons as Prime Minister, he offered no false hope. He famously said, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat." He promised to wage war, by sea, land, and air, with all our might, and declared his aim was simple: victory. Victory at all costs. Through the summer of 1940, during the Battle of Britain, Churchill's leadership was a beacon of hope. His powerful radio speeches, broadcast to the nation and the world, became legendary. He rallied the British people with his soaring rhetoric, praising the Royal Air Force pilots with the immortal words, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." He toured bomb-damaged cities, offering defiance and encouragement, his signature cigar and V4 victory sign becoming symbols of British resolve. His strategic leadership was crucial. He forged a close personal relationship with U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, tirelessly working to secure American aid before they officially entered the war. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, he helped shape the Grand Alliance with the United States and the Soviet Union, a complex and often tense partnership united by the common goal of defeating the Axis powers. He was a hands-on war leader, deeply involved in military strategy, from the Battle of the Atlantic to the D-Day landings in Normandy. His unshakable belief in ultimate victory sustained the nation through 5 long, brutal years of war. When victory in Europe was declared in May 1945, Churchill stood on the balcony of the Ministry of Health, a global icon, the man who had saved Britain. It seemed his position was unassailable. And yet, just 2 months later, in a stunning electoral upset, his Conservative Party was defeated in a landslide by the Labour Party. The British people, while grateful for his wartime leadership, were now focused on building a new, better post-war society, and they entrusted that task to others. Churchill was out of office. He accepted the defeat with grace, becoming the leader of the opposition. He didn't fade away. In 1946, during a speech in Fulton, Missouri, he delivered another of his famous phrases, warning of an iron curtain descending across Europe, a powerful metaphor for the division between the Soviet-dominated East and the democratic West. It was one of the defining speeches of the early Cold War. He also dedicated himself to writing his monumental 6-volume history, The Second World War, a work that would earn him the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1953 for his mastery of historical and biographical description as well as for brilliant oratory in defending exalted human values. In 1951, at the age of 76, Churchill made a remarkable comeback, once again becoming Prime Minister. His second term was quieter, focused on post-war reconstruction, managing Britain's declining role as a global power, and navigating the early tense years of the nuclear age. His health, however, began to fail. After suffering a series of strokes, he finally retired as Prime Minister in 1955. Winston Churchill passed away on January 24, 1965, at the age of 90. By order of Queen Elizabeth II, he was given a state funeral, an honor rarely bestowed upon a commoner. His coffin was carried down the River Thames as dock cranes dipped in salute, a final moving tribute to the man who had led his country through its greatest trial. Winston Churchill was a complex and often contradictory figure. He was an aristocrat who championed social reform, a brilliant orator who had a speech impediment, and a leader whose career was marked by both spectacular failures and unparalleled triumphs. But his legacy is undeniable. He was the indomitable leader whose courage and defiance in the face of tyranny inspired a nation and the free world. His life is a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of conviction, and the impact one individual can have on the course of history. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the life of Winston Churchill. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's most fascinating figures. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to see featured next. Until then, stay curious.